Hello and welcome to Insight. Today we have with us a very special guest with an insider's perspective on the Northeast region, Lieutenant General Sukhdeep Sangwan. General Sangwan superannuated on the 31st of May 2021 after 4 decades of distinguished service. He is an infantryman from the Rajputana Rifles. His last assignment as the Director General of the Assam Rifles was lauded by not just the Ministry of Defense but the Ministry of Home Affairs. General Sangwan is a distinguished fellow at United Services Institution, USI. He is also a visiting faculty at IIM and also visits the IAS Academy. He also lectures at various other premier institutions as a guest lecturer. The General has also authored a book, Integrated Force Projection by India, as well as collaborated on another, Comprehensive National Power. He also writes poems in Hindi and English and has published a compilation called The Random Thoughts in 2021. Join us today as we discuss the grand history of the Assam Rifles as well as their role in the Northeast region of India. General Sangwan, it is such a privilege and an honor to have you with us today on Insight, especially at a time like this. We are seeing what's happening in Manipur. There's a lot of talk about it, but we'll come to that in a little bit. I want to begin this discussion by asking you to give us a brief history about the history of Assam Rifles.
Okay, Rami. Firstly, while it is customary to thank the anchor for inviting me over, I am doubly grateful to you. Personally, because Northeast is something which is very close to my heart, and having commanded the oldest paramilitary force, Assam Rifles, it is equally important that I talk about Assam Rifles somewhere. And therefore, let me start by saying this Assam Rifles, this is a force which is lesser known somehow. They have confined themselves to Northeast and have focused themselves and did not go in a way wherein they can publicize about their achievements. But a force which was raised in 1835, it was raised as a very small force called as Kachar Levy. Kachar, you know, is in Assam, so Kachar Levy. And its primary task at that time was to provide protection to the tea planters against the tribal attacks. Then over the years it grew slowly and slowly, 3 battalions were added. By 1917, by the First World War, it had contributed 3,000 troops to the First World War in Europe and Far West. And that is the kind of contribution. Since then, barring Kargil, which we don't call in military parlance as a war, it was just a skirmish. Whatever wars India has fought, the 2 great wars and otherwise, Assam Rifles has had its contribution. So from 1835 to a force which now has got 65,000 people and 46 battalions, not only infantry battalions, but we've also raised in 2019, raised a NDRF battalion. So we are contributing in disaster management as well. And to top it all, we also contributed to the United Nations peacekeeping force. For 9 continuous years, Assam Rifle has contributed. So that is the kind of role which Assam Rifle has got. I mean, I will not go into the details, but it has got some conventional dynamics as well. We leave it at that. That is the significance of Assam Rifles.
So, as you said, that it was made it was put together for the region. What is the cadre makeup of the Assam Rifles, and does the present cadre makeup prove any difficulties?
So, the present force structure, the cadre is, now it is all India, all caste basis. Originally, it was raised only for the Northeast people, but a few years ago, it switched on to the all India, all caste basis, with the large component, still about 40%, hailing from the Northeast. So it augurs well for us, it augurs well for Assam Rifles, because now the footfall of Assam Rifles is pan-India. And it adds to this, the finesse with which it can operate anywhere in any part of the country. Not only this has helped us not only in Northeast, but the force has participated in IPKF. Force is now deployed in Srinagar, J&K. It had earlier in 90s, and now again we volunteered to go there. And since we're talking of Assam Rifles, let me share with you, being a woman, Assam Rifles was the first force to deploy its Mahila force on the line of control on the Pakistan border, which was not initially assigned to us, but we volunteered to send our Mahilas. And they volunteered. They said, sir, don't send us as a showpiece for 50 days or 100 days. We want a full tenure of 2 to 3 years. So that is what Assam Rifles is.
Wonderful, sir, to hear that. Assam Rifles clearly has a lot of firsts to its name. But it also has like a dual structure component to it, you know. Is that problematic? And could you explain a little bit about it?
Yeah, I'll tell you what happens is Assam Rifle basically is a paramilitary force. One has to understand that unlike other CAPFs like BSF, CRPF, ITBP, etc., Assam Rifles is a paramilitary force. So if I may use the word, it is kind of an adjunct to our defense forces. It has got its, I highlighted earlier, it has got its role in conventional operations. And therefore, it has got a dual control. The dual control means its operationalization rests with the Ministry of Defence. And of course, Ministry of Defence exercises it through the Army and the Eastern Command. And the administration, the funding, the budgeting and overall control rests with the MHA. And it has been carrying on since 1965 when for the first time it was given to MHA. And there's, truly speaking, there's not much of a problem at all. It has acquitted itself well in all kind of environments, all kind of operations, all kind of disaster management, relief everywhere. There's never been a dispute between the two ministries or any misunderstanding between two ministries.
Okay, that's great to know. Also, Assam Rifles has updated some of its training modules, its equipment. How do you feel we're placed right now? And what more do we need if there are any voids in your opinion?
Oh, good. You asked a very pertinent question. You see, I proudly again state that for the last 2 years continuously, Assam Rifle Training Center has been adjudged as the best training center in the NCO's category, that is the constabulary category. And this trophy is given by the Union Home Minister. So that is the level at which we have kept our upgradation of our training facilities, all kind of facilities, simulators, the latest equipment, the weaponry, everything is available. And this is in a place called Difu. So that is the kind of training which we do. As far as equipment is concerned, we are at par with any other force. There are modernization is on. Even cadre review is also on. So I don't find anywhere where we will be lacking in terms of the modernized weapons or equipment.
So, you also are a part of, not a part, but there are also other forces in the Northeast. There's the BSF, there's the SSB, there's the Assam Rifles. You know, border issues have always been problematic in the Northeast, you know, in terms of being porous. Do you think that if there was just one force guarding it, would that help the cause, considering that, you know, Assam Rifles is so well trained, it's well equipped? Would that help, or there's a reason that there are so many different forces?
Again, Rami, I'll tell you, after the Kargil Review Committee report of 99, 2001, now in any case, only one force, one border. Assam Rifle is the sole force responsible for Indo-Myanmar border. Correct. There are other agencies involved in the hinterland, but as far as border is concerned, it is only Assam Rifle which is responsible for entire 1643 kilometers. Wow. Now, another uniqueness in this is, we use this term border management very loosely. Now, it anchors on three pillars. Border management is a term which anchors on three things. One is the border guarding, then is the border defense, and third is the border management. Now, guarding is by Assam Rifles and ITBP and all these people. Border defense is Indian Army, and border management is civil administration. Peculiarly, in case of Myanmar, there is no defense. So, border defense, there is not a single trench. So, border guarding, border defense, both are being done by Assam Rifles. And to top it all, allow me also to say that the infrastructure is so meager and thin there that even when you have to send a bureaucrat and bureaucrats are working, the protection virtually comes from Assam Rifles. There are as few as 19 police stations along the entire border.
Entire 1600
Entire 1643 kilometers, 19 police stations, and out of that only 4 in Nagaland, 2 in Nagaland, 2 in Manipur are having weapons. And when I brought, when I was the DG, I brought this to the notice of Present Honorable Union Home Minister. he issued the directions to the state governments on writing, it's available, that every year we must add 4 police stations, each of the states. Now, how far have we reached there? I would not be able to comment since my superannuation. But with this kind of hardly any presence of police, how do you expect the border to be managed? How do you expect the bureaucrats to function? How do you expect the peace to be prevail in these border areas? So that is where Assam Rifle pitches in.
So that's like a huge mandate, like, you know, and these borders are difficult terrains, you know, very thickly forested, not easy to man. But then that also brings us to the conflict that we've seen happening in Manipur. Again, there's a question of infiltration coming in. And how difficult is this border to seal? Can it ever be sealed fully?
If you want me to be candid,
Yes, of course.
if we use the word sealed, definitely not in the near future. I would also be saying certainly not in the foreseeable future, because the terrain is such. See the kind of forest cover which is there. It's a treat to see the helicopter vision when you fly over this. It can't be fenced. That is where we had proposed to the MHA a concept of hybrid model of fencing, wherein somewhere we can have unattended ground sensors, somewhere we can have fence proper, somewhere we will patrol and guard through the Assam Rifles border guarding force, and some areas which are totally inaccessible can be left absolutely vacant, because neither can anyone walk through that nor can anyone come. The survival is difficult, the jungles are so thick. So that hybrid model is the only answer. If you compare it with the western borders, I don't see we'll be able to ever achieve that. And I'll supplement this with this argument also. At the end of it, it's all a money game. How much money can you pump in for a non-productive thing like fencing? It will be at the cost of development and other things. So this is how we'll have to manage this border.
That's an important point you make, that how much, you know, I believe you said this once, that your fencing is only as good as its weakest point.
Weakest
you know?
link, yeah.
So what sort of technology, is there any that other countries are using that can be put on borders like these?
Yeah, Israel is using, but again the issue is Israel is using because it's a desert terrain, they can use it. Any kind of IT solution or AI solution, there are 2-3 things. One is line of sight. Second is the issue of signals. How do you ensure that? And whatever you put, whether sensor or otherwise, you should be able to take care of those and go and visit them regularly. But jungles will never permit you that. So it is a mix of all these dynamics you'll have to factor on. And then only we'll have to manage this border. And it's not difficult. It has been done with these kind of constraints, little more pumping in terms of hybrid fencing, and I think border can easily be managed. I'll not say sealed,
yeah,
but
can
at
be
least
managed.
Yeah.
Better than
absolutely
at this point. So before I come to your view on the Manipur conflict, which we've seen now, I think it's the 63rd day or something. You have great experience in this area. You've seen it inside out. You know what the challenges are. One of the things that we keep hearing, and I take this from the question of the borders, is drug trafficking. Where is it coming from? Why is it coming in the kind of lots that it's coming in, which is quite large quantities? And how is it all connected?
See, drugs is a nexus, there's no doubt, because related with drugs is the funding, and related with that is also the weaponization of the cadres. And this is a nexus. I'll be forthright in saying we have to analyze the role played by our neighbors, our principal adversary and our neighbors. I'll not name exactly. Without their support, this cannot happen. And the problem is so grave. While I'll just tell you, like 2018 when I took over, the recovery was 58 crores. 58 crores worth of drugs were being recovered by Assam Rifles. 2020 when I left, and now it's even more. Now we are recovering 1,000 crores. This itself sets aside what is moving around on Twitter, that Assam Rifle facilitates drug trade, from 58,000 to recover 1,000 crores in a period of 3 years reflects. Correct. And let me add the dynamics. The women cadre, when we started using them for operations, they played an important role. They started catching all the carriers. They started telling us that these are the carriers and they are coming. These carriers are the ones who have to be nabbed, and they were lot many of them were Mahilas. So it is doable. But to say that somebody is aiding and supporting is incorrect. It's all docketed. How much recovered and how much said.
Correct, sir.
And also one more thing I'll highlight. I am not sure what DG, the present DG has taken a stand. I am sure he would have lived up to the same reputation. We refuse to even take the authorized cuts in the sense as a reward. When you recover drugs, the force which recovers it, the party which recovers it is entitled to some kind of a, I would say, kind of a
Correct.
remuneration.
Correct.
In the sense that 10%, 5% something you get it. We said we don't want it. We even proposed to say that whatever is our share, you pump in our schools and don't give it to anyone, because today if I am going to recover the drugs and I get a share, my person who is working with me, who has not been able to recover in that day but was part of the larger operation, will go back dejected. So drugs and all, there is no nexus as far as Assam Rifles is concerned. We have reported, we have submitted, deposited with everything with the police, and thereafter police has its own systems to put in place. But unless we stop this drug trade, and I am happy MHA and the Home Minister himself, right in front of our, even in Northeast Council, he had made this mention, and he told all these 7 state governors and chief ministers, in his own words, if I may quote, though not exactly the same words, he said, drugs pakadna sirf Assam Rifles ka kaam nahi hai, 7 states ka kaam hai, they have to do it. They're coming from a Home Minister for a force like paramilitary force. It was a huge compliment for us. And that is what we need to address.
Sir, could you tell us a little bit more about the drug trade in terms of how do they bring it in, what happens on the ground, and what is all this that we hear about poppy cultivation?
See, poppy cultivation also was part of this. In higher reaches, poppy cultivation is on. This is done by civil administration. They have directives and rules. Wherever they get this report of poppy cultivation, they are supposed to be going and burning it down. As far as Assam Rifles' role is concerned, we report that. If it is in our area, poppy cultivation is happening, this is docketed in the reports through the army channel, because we are dual control, as I told you. Through the army channel, it goes to 3 Corps and our Eastern Command, and of course it comes to army headquarters. And through the MHA channel also, it goes up the chain through the state and police departments and all. So once it is reported, then the decision has to be taken. Somebody will have to burn it out. They will have to ensure that nobody cultivates. So it's a larger policy decision. That policy void somewhere, I think, is the one which is creating problems. So if we have poppy cultivation controlled, and second question you asked is how is drugs smuggled? Now what happens is they come in a group, they cross anywhere. I told you, they can cross from anywhere. They now know exactly where the forces are deployed. So they used to come in groups, get down from a truck or a vehicle, then walk across through the jungles and bypass all the nakas, which they call it. So we started countering them. I will not exactly tell you how we started doing it, but we also fanned out. We changed our strategy, and we started getting results. But issue is, more than the carriers, it is the nexus between the larger fish. And I will not say which community, which group, which this thing, this is for the government to see. But the fact is, we have to poach those bigger players in this and not the mere carriers.
Quite right, sir. Sir, now turning towards the Manipur conflict, you know these areas really well, you know these communities very well, you know the history very well. How do you view this conflict? Can we look at it from a singular lens of, you know, the fact that it's just a land issue problem or just an ethnic problem? What is the holistic picture?
See, we all have seen, like I have walked in Northeast as a young captain and lieutenant from 82 onwards, 82, and thereafter we have seen how the entire Northeast, not only Manipur, how the situation has improved over all these years, and how the thrust on infrastructure development has changed the dynamics. But having lost the grid somewhere and landing up in this kind of a situation, definitely something has gone wrong where we have not been able to address at all levels, whether it is police, whether it is army or civil or state administration. This is something which needs to be addressed. Otherwise, tell me one thing, the present 2 communities, that the Maitis and Kukis, they have lived together. We have never heard of Maiti-Kuki clash. We have heard of Naga-Kuki clash. We have heard of
Kuki-Paiti clash.
Kuki-Paiti, but never like this. They have lived together, they celebrate festivals together, they are understanding. Yesterday also I was listening to one of the news items on Twitter, and the people said, we are not interested in anything, call us. Call us, we'll sit down together and we'll resolve. And how can we neglect Manipur? We can't. So this, to my mind, is something where we have not been able to read those signals, those early battle indicators which we call. And if this kind of a situation, this kind of a, I mean, we'll have to make some concessions. Some bold concessions will have to be made by the government, state as well as the center. Maybe for both the communities or even some more communities, for larger good of Manipur.
But sir, is this just a question of demands on the rights of land, or does this have a security lens on it as well?
No, I'm telling you, see what happens is, when you have a larger community, like for Assam Rifles, I give you example, a force which has stayed together in the same area for 2 centuries. For 2 centuries we have stayed with this force, with this region. Absolutely congenial atmosphere, together we live together. Kukis, Nagas, Maithis, they are all staying together. Those vested cadres, those vested interests which are lying with some of the people, and we should not close our eyes to Myanmar, the role of Bangladesh, the role of China. I mean, they will just fuel the fire. They'll be stoking the fire.
And it's happened before.
It has happened before, and they're just waiting for it. See, again, the strategic dimension to Manipur is, Manipur is the fulcrum on which will rest our Act East policy. Correct. This is the fulcrum basically. Nagaland will play a role, Mizoram will play a role, but via More. And look at China's interest. China has to go down to Bay of Bengal. Yes. We have to go far east, Southeast Asia. The intersection is in Myanmar. China will never allow us to have those kind of relations. And that is where this is creating problem. Every small little opportunity they will exploit. This is what has happened.
Correct. That's why, sir, I asked you earlier on, Assam Rifles mans the Indo-Myanmar border. But then there's ITBP on the other side, Indo-China, then there's SSB. Do you think, in your learned experience, and this is a naive question from my end, does it make any sense to have one force manning the entire border on the northeast? Because because like you spoke about about vested interests across the border, they are throughout the.
So the issue is, see, I'll tell you what. Like today we are discussing Manipur. Few months back, there was an incident near Tawang, Thigsi. You know the Thigsi, Yangtze Valley. Does it mean the ITBP is not doing the job or Indian Army is not doing the job? This kind of border activation, irrespective of whichever force, BSF on the western border, yet there are attempts. So any force, whether single or double or triple, these kind of problems will happen on the border. What we have to understand is, getting ITBP now in the east, this has been debated. And when we had discussed this issue in 2019 or 20, again the statement was made in the Rajya Sabha that this issue of ITBP moving in northeast is shelved now. MOS Home, Mr. Nityanand Rai, he had made this mention. So these are, I would say, knee-jerk reactions, that instead of one force you take out Assam Rifle. Assam Rifle, if it is taken out today, if you see larger strategic interest, I am sure, it's my personal view, the Indian Army will be happy. So will Assam Rifles be. Because if you get out of this and now you get into the mold of your conventional operations, what better for you, being a paramilitary force. But it will definitely not be in the interest of the nation. The knowledge which is there with the Assam Rifle soldier, having served there for 200 years, and 40% of them have their roots there.
Understood, sir.
So this is, changing this force will not help, whether ITBP comes in, BSF comes in. What, I would say is this void, the long-term policy void, that needs to be addressed. So that is one issue which I feel that can be handled.
So then let me come to my next question. We've seen in Manipur the conflict, because it's so prolonged and maybe because of the emotional impact of this prolonged conflict, not by majority of the groups but by certain sections of various communities, there has been doubt cast on the unbiased or the biased nature of the Assam Rifles. How do you view that?
See, I also saw on Twitter as recent as 2 days back also, something that Assam Rifle is showing bias towards one particular community. Now, if you go back to the start of this present, I would say, situation which has come in from May 3rd, if I recall, 3rd of May onwards, 35,000 people were there in Assam Rifles camp. There is nobody saying this is for Maithi camp or Kuki camp or anyone. 35,000 people walked in. And between 6th to 9th of May, I think, 8,000 of one community and 10,000 people of the other community, both these communities, they were given a safe passage back home whoever wanted. And it was Assam Rifles who was escorting them and granting that safe passage. Now 8,000 versus 10,000, it's almost balance. And if I give you exact figures, it's 8,700 something and 10,000, it's not even 2,000 difference. So that is the kind of dispassionate and unbiased view which the forces. You go back to COVID days. The COVID was handled in every area, whether it was Naga, whether you go to Ukhrul, the way we handled Ukhrul, again dominated by Nagas. You go to Kuki dominated, you go to Maiti dominated areas. Everywhere, the policies which Assam Rifle enunciates for itself it sans all kind of bias, no bias. We have Maiti officers, we have Kuki officers. Within the force, within the unit, all communities are staying together. There's never a revolt. So this is, again, I told you, these are vested interests, planted people who will give these kind of messages, but we have to take care of this kind of adverse propaganda.
So because nowadays in the age of social media, it also becomes like Chinese whispers. एक ने कहा तो दूसरा भी कहता है.
So that is where we have to see, we have to counter the propaganda also. That's why I'm saying, where is the policy wide? Counter propaganda, where is the dimension of our policy? Where is the dimension? There should be a counter propaganda policy. So there's nothing. So that has to come up.
How would Assam Rifles counter it then?
No, we basically are focused on meeting the people day to day. When you go around, you go and interact today also. Yesterday there was an officer who was coming on that. We have nothing. We want to live together. Call us together. There's an army officer who was there on the social media. And he's appealing. He says all of us are willing to come together and solve this problem. Don't go by few of us who have been misled by people.
Correct.
So if this is the kind of feeling, then where is the problem?
Correct. So would you say that you don't feel that there isn't a need, because these are vested interests, to really do any confidence building measures post this conflict, or would that be something that AR would?
That's what precisely I'm saying. You see, today, like the other day also I was mentioning, in the audience we have people like me who lost their hair and who are grey haired. 60 years of what is it that we can give back now? Our experiences.
Correct.
Where is that youth? Where is the youth who have to now carve the shape of Manipur in the northeast?
Correct.
We have to get them on board. How was Assam solved? Youth. When we got in Praful Mohanta, he was a youthful energy when they came in. You pick up any insurgency, any kind of a problem, unless you rope in the youth to discuss and come out with their ideas, they may be coming out with something new, out of box solution. We are coming out time and again, negotiations, discussions and all, they may come out with something more. So we have to have those people on board. And we have to negate all those kind of things. Like another thing I'll highlight. Again, there were media reports that Sioux camps, Assam Rifle was favoring these cookies and weapons have come in from Sioux camps. Now, Sioux, just to let the audience know, it's suspension of operations camp. Basically, an agreement was signed between the state government, central government and cookies. You know what are the kind of weapons they have? They have bolt action rifles. They have rusted weapons. Very few semi-automatics. Every year there is a report which comes duly signed by the Assam Rifles, the army rep from Eastern Command, wherever their camps are. I mean the camps are in their area, and the state police. Now the state police is not cookies alone. State police has cookies, Maitis, everyone is there. So it's a state police. So how can we today say that from 2008 when the camps were established till 2023, there is never a demand that these cookie camps weapons are being misused. Now suddenly for this this have been used. It's not done. Weapons can come in from northeast, I am not denying, from across the border. They can come in. I told you drug trade and other things. It's easily available across. So they may have got it. Which group has got it, which not got it is all a matter of present hierarchy to see. So this is something which again is a adverse publicity being done just to ensure that the things continue simmering.
Sir, but with these Sioux camps, the weapons have been looted.
That was from IRB battalions, from Manipur Rifle, sorry. IRB battalion was likely to be looted yesterday, where again it was thwarted by Assam Rifles. Assam Rifles, one of the vehicles was burned yesterday, correct, but they risked their vehicle and they saved this IRB battalion armory being looted. Yesterday was the incident.
Correct.
But it was Manipur Rifles, their armory was looted. Sioux camp weapons, even if you give it to any subversive element, they will not like to take it. That is the kind of weapons they have. It's
So what you're saying is these are old, outdated,
yeah, they're
and
old.
because the agreement has been quite some time,
Yeah.
they're probably not even functional.
But at the same time, I'll also say that they may have equipped themselves. The cadres may have equipped themselves with new weapons coming from across.
Quite right.
That
Would
is not
that
ruled
not
out.
be a violation of the agreement?
Well, that's a violation.
So,
That's a violation.
do you think that there'll be some sort of renegotiations?
We must definitely get on the negotiating table and ask them if we have evidence. Yes, these are the people who are caught and apprehended with those kind of weapons, and they are listed as the terrorists who were in the Sioux camps. We must definitely take this up. This is a gross violation in that case.
Absolutely, sir. So, also there have been complaints from the Sioux camps also that, the completion of the agreement has taken a long time. What would you say to that? Does that add to their discontentment?
See, again, this we will have to have those backdoor channels activated to tell people a region which, for whatever reasons, was disturbed for almost 50, 60 years continuously. Even now, it's disturbed in a way. To find absolute peace, it will take another 50 years, 40 to 50 years. Just before this incident, Manipur has travelled back to normalcy. There was nightlife. We would go in the evenings. We could see people moving around, walking. Shops were open. So slowly and slowly we were inching towards normalcy. You go to Nagaland, Kohima, nightlife. But with this kind of sporadic incidents here and there, that setback which hits the peace process takes you back by decades. Not only 1 year, 2 years, definitely 10 to 15 years. We've gone back.
Correct, sir. Sir, I agree with you. Having been there, I've been traveling there, as you know, for the last 10, 15 years. There was a time when you couldn't get out after 4 o'clock, and then there was a time in the last 4, 5 years where I saw new restaurants opening, young kids coming back because otherwise they used to leave. And this definitely has been a setback for the state and, for the youth. But before I come to my last few questions, I want to ask you one more question about the Sioux camps out of just sheer interest, is that most of the Sioux camps are surrounding the valley, and I believe there are about 14 of them. They're surrounding the valley. Does this sort of arrangement not make valley people feel a little threatened?
I'll come back to the same. See, the Sioux camps were established in areas, land, which was given by the state government. It was not tactically chosen by defense forces or Assam Rifles or even police. It is a land available which was given. The thing which is kept in mind is it should be little away from the habited areas so that people don't disturb them. It is very well away from the valley. Now, with a small little state, when you plot 14 camps, it looked like as if it is surrounding the valley. It's on the hills. But there is no tactical siting done in a manner that you will dominate the valley or you will not allow a particular community to feel free and move around. It is just a land which is given by the state government. They want to shift it, they can give land somewhere else, they can shift it. So it's a state subject.
Okay, understood, sir. Sir, Assam Rifles is also known as Friends of the Northeast, and it also has an impeccable record on human rights. What are the kind of initiatives that Assam Rifles takes to bridge any gaps that there might be and to have a reputation like this?
See, one thing is Assam Rifle invests in the future. There are 46 schools run by Assam Rifles, which are not meant only for Assam Rifle families. They are open to the civilians. 46 schools all across all states. And we have a vision, we think beyond today. For example, in 2021, January 2021, we established the first sports school in the Northeast on the lines of Sports School Rai. The second one in the country and first in the Northeast. The school was of Assam Rifles, the land is of Assam Rifles, the infrastructure is of Assam Rifles. Every facility we will be providing. We are thinking in terms of overall growth of Northeast, where we invest and how do we increase our outreach for ensuring that we don't violate human rights and we have all segments of society with us. We honor the sports person. We have an understanding with Mary Com. I myself had gone across to Tripura to meet Deepa Karmakar and all the budding athletes and all. So the sports personalities are taken along with us. The public, we meet them, we run programs for them. We look at the future development to the extent that we don't only promote recruitment as sepoys or soldiers. Again in 2020, 3 years back, we again trained 3 officers, 3 young cadets have gone to the NDA, trained and helped by Assam Rifles. There is so much of potential, but we basically encourage them. The country doesn't know Ukhrul, a remote area, has got chocolate factory.
Yes,
It's
I
got a
remember
chocolate
the
factory.
Nagachali chocolate factory.
Those chocolate factories,
Yeah.
they started bringing it here and sending it as a gift to various people. I said, this is as good as Swiss chocolates.
So, I have to agree with you. I saw it at the Manipur airport, in Imphal airport,
Yeah.
and I couldn't believe that this was made in Ukhrul, a place that people would not choose to come back at one point.
You name a thing. We grossly, I'll tell you, if we have to have a vision, we have to understand that if Manipur or Northeast has to become the pivot for Act East, firstly we must harness the soft power of Northeast. And soft power in every domain of activity, whether it is resources, whether it is, I would say, culture, costume, color, you name a thing. I mean, we've not been able to address the tourism also.
Yes.
Best of turmeric in the world is Meghalaya.
Yes.
And you go and see that factory and you'll realize this is the best in the world. You'll not believe. Best of every spice which is available is there. So we need to harness the soft power of Northeast. We need to see the soft skills of people of Northeast. They're there. I mean, it at times pains when we say we need to integrate Northeast in the mainstream. They're integrated.
Absolutely, sir.
They're integrated. I started saying, and the Assam Rifle does it, instead of getting Northeast people to see the country, we are taking people from rest of the country to go and see Northeast.
Wonderful initiative,
That is what
sir.
has to be done. So this region is something amazing. We need to take people there to believe it, and these people are amenable to suggestions. They are very soft spoken, good at heart, brave. You use an adjective, it will be applicable to them.
So great hospitality.
Hospitality. And I see no reason that we can't get Maiti and Kuki groups to come together and include even Naga groups together. They will be more than willing to come sit down together, and it will be give and take. We have to. Somewhere we have to give, somewhere we have to take.
Absolutely, sir.
But that platform has to be given.
Be there.
You can't have a portion of the country raising in fire like this.
No, sir, not such a crucial,
Yeah.
strategic part of our country. Sir, you spoke about the soft power and you also spoke about the Act East policy. Assam Rifles has a particularly important role to play in the facilitation of the Act East policy because again, More being our gateway. Could you tell us a little bit about how Assam Rifles does that?
See, the basic aim is to increase our reach eastwards, okay, and ensure that the free flow of business for trade, for commerce, when will it happen? If the area is secure and safe, it is Assam Rifles which will render you that safety and security. You pull out Assam Rifles, you will not be able to stabilize Northeast. I'm on record saying this. It will be very difficult, hugely difficult without Assam Rifles to ensure peace and stability. So the most important factor is the peace and stability. So Assam Rifle is there to give you that. The knowledge about the rest of the places, that is available. The infrastructure of Assam Rifles, we've in-house debated and discussed this. If you see this highway, trilateral highway which will come up, we should pump in resources, develop the Assam Rifles hospitals. If I am coming from Thailand and I know there are hospitals along this road, what more do I want? I know there are shopping complexes, I know there are hotels, there are tourist places, I know in the safe environments of a defense force or a paramilitary force. I would come, I would definitely come. This is what Assam Rifles can do. Assam Rifles has a connect even with the Myanmar police. I'll proudly say that we talk of Swachh Bharat. It's photographed event. It is an event very well received, wherein More, both the Myanmar people, Myanmar Defense Forces as the border guarding force, and Assam Rifles, together we did cleaning of More on our side and Tamu on their side. It was part of Swachh Bharat campaign. That is the soft power projection. We convinced them that in India we are following this program, why can't you do it in Myanmar? And they agreed. This is projection of soft power. So this is the confidence which they get when they interact with the Assam Rifles. I'm sure Assam Rifles can play a major role in allowing its infrastructure to be used, facilities to be used, giving confidence to the people, and exploiting its connect with the with the Myanmar forces.
Absolutely, sir. So finally, I want to come to my final question, which is, what is your vision of Assam Rifles in Manipur? And what would you say to all these communities that you've worked so closely with, the importance of regaining peace and stability in Manipur? Not just for the state, but for the entire country. We're looking for them to come back to some sort of stability.
I would make a humble appeal to all communities. There's something which they have been doing over the years. Rely on your culture. Their culture says they're peace loving. Their culture says they love each other. If they love each other, why not come together, sit down and negotiate? There's no solution. The firearms, the firefighting, this kind of blame game each other, this will not help. Demands, the governments will have to come in. Demands will have to be taken care either ways. But how much for one and how much for the other, this is a matter of time, it will take time. So they have to understand, and I'm sure once we walk across to them, people can go there, they can come here. This kind of discussions is the only answer. Any forceful solution will not yield results, whether it is for one community or the other community.
Right.
And certainly any other angle in terms of religion or otherwise should not be allowed to creep in, because vested interests across, again I keep saying, they would like to start this also, that this is this state, this is that state. So we should not fall prey to this religion issue. And I'm sure we have eminent personalities and the youth leadership coming in. The solutions can be found. Solutions can be found. We have seen worse timings when the insurgency was at its peak. Today there's no insurgency. It's more of a riot.
Correct.
There's a huge difference between insurgency where ideology is affected.
Absolutely.
Here it's only a kind of arson, looting, riot, terror. We've all dealt with it. So I'm sure, if the blockage could be lifted after talks, if the road blockage was lifted, similarly this also can be resolved. And they should rope in some eminent, I would not say sane people, I would say people who can give some good solutions and not some harsh solutions. They should be brought in.
Sir, I have to be in agreement with you, because I think the solution has to come from within the civil society. Any sort of harsh, heavy-handed solution is not going to give us any long-term benefits. On that note, sir, thank you so much for being here with us, and it was really an honor to have you.
Thank you very much, Rami. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I could get this opportunity to sit with you and discuss.
Thank you, sir. That was our conversation with General Sangwan, former DGP, Assam Rifles. It's clear that the contribution, legacy is absolutely immense of the Assam Rifles in the Northeast region. As for the Manipur conflict, we've seen the positive role that the Assam Rifles have played, with the General giving us statistics of over 40,000 people from both the communities in the camps set up by Assam Rifles, as well as over 20,000 people from both communities being given safe passage. Here is to seeing more of Assam Rifles' contribution and dedication to the region, and hoping for stability and peace in Manipur.